Coming up on today's Cleveland Browns report, we've got some injury news to get to involving Grant Delpit. I'll get everyone caught up to speed on the latest on 22. Plus, after all the contract restructures, are the Browns going to make some big move like trade for Chris Jones since he's in a holdout? I don't think so. I really don't think so. But we will at least break that down and talk about it on the show for a little bit. And then a different Grant, Jakeem Grant. Is he a roster lock? After what Kevin Stefanski said, I think so. But let's start with the injury news because starting safety Grant Delpit left practice today on Wednesday after colliding with wide receiver Jalen Wayne. I've got the video of the collision on my Twitter at Matthew Petey if you want to go see it for yourself. It's not too violent of a collision. It's just two guys running right into each other and neither player looking at the other guy's direction. Now, Delpit left practice with an arm injury. According to sources, it's a day-to-day arm injury. So with week 1, 18 days away, fingers crossed, he should be ready to go by then. Day-to-day is a lot better than week-to-week for Delpit, but that's all the information we have at this point. Now, as for the safety room, if Grant Delpit were to miss a little bit of time into the regular season, I feel pretty confident about Rodney McLeod stepping in and filling in for him next to Juan Thornhill. Plus, if we've learned anything from training camp so far, it's that the Browns have a very deep safety room, right? Ronnie Hickman has been awesome. You have a returning 53-man roster player in DeAnthony Bell. So if Delpit does miss a little bit of time, I'm confident in Thornhill, McLeod, Bell, and Hickman to get the job done until Delpit is able to return. But this injury does come. I mean, no injury comes at a good time, but this one comes at kind of a tough time just because of Delpit's history of missing time his first season with the Browns. Of course, missed the entire year. But last year, after a so-so start to the season, you can see he ended it way better than the way he started it. His overall PFF grade went up 5 points. The yards allowed plummeted. The touchdowns allowed plummeted. And he had 2 more interceptions in the second half of the season compared to the first half. But let's give the guys some well wishes right now. Hopefully that arm injury is just more of a stinger and he is going to be ready to roll 100% week 1 against the Bengals, because going up against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, you are going to need all the defensive firepower you can get. So spam 22 down in the comment section. I also should have said this at the top of the video. If you can't tell, I'm still feeling under the weather, so I'm sorry for the congested voice. But let's talk about all of the cap movements now, because the Browns have been clearing cap space like it is nobody's business. Myles Garrett, Joel Bitonio, and David Njoku have all had their contracts restructured. If you are unfamiliar with what a restructure means, it does not mean these players are taking less money. It is moving money from their base salary to bonuses, which they still get the same amount of cash, but their cap hits for this year go down, but their future cap hits for as long as they are under contract go up. I think it's kind of like if you've seen a video that explains how a levee works, the Panama Canal. The water goes up in one lock, but it goes down in the other, and then it goes up and down. That's what restructuring does. It's decreasing cap hits for one season, but increasing them for the other seasons. So why do teams do this? Well, if teams like the Browns have really rich owners that are going to spend money, they don't mind having bigger cap hits down the road. Plus, as long as the cap continues to go up, which barring another global pandemic, it always will, well, the percentage cap hit goes down, right? Because the cap hit, let's say for Grant Delpit or for Myles Garrett, is 10% this year. But then next year you added more cap hit, but the actual cap space went up even more, which means that from 10%, it actually goes down to 8%. And then the next year, it's 7%. So it's not a bad idea to kick the can down the road if you plan on keeping these guys for the duration of their contract and you don't want to release them with a year or two left, because now they have a huge dead cap hit and there's no global pandemic. I'm confident on Myles Garrett never getting cut as long as he's under contract with the Browns. Pretty confident that we don't have another global pandemic. So with the Browns having $37.5 million in cap space, why are they doing this? Why are they doing all this? What are they going to do with all this money? I maintain it is for a rollover. They want to roll this money over into next year, which will cut away at the cap deficit they are currently at. because in 2024, they are currently in the red, meaning they have to find a way to free up cap space, like cutting players or trading players, or you can roll some cap over, and that will eat away at some of that dead money, or that red money, excuse me, the amount you are below the cap. But at the same time, we know Andrew Berry. Who saw the Za'Darius Smith trade coming? Not I. Who really saw the Deshaun Watson deal coming up until the last week or so? Not many people. It's not like the Browns were in on Watson from the start. Same goes for Amari Cooper. Same kind of goes for Elijah Moore. Like, usually teams don't put out big signs, we're trading for this player, but the Browns have been well known to be aggressive and kind of sneaky in their aggression. So I know there has been a lot of chatter around Chris Jones, the Chiefs' star defensive tackle. In my eyes, I mean, after Aaron Donald, he is the best interior defensive lineman in our game, but he has not been at Chiefs training camp or preseason thus far, as he is holding out looking for a new contract. And Jones took to Twitter today and he tweeted out some picture of a sign that really doesn't mean anything. You're just trying to make sense of these read between the lines kind of tweets and cryptic messages from players. But someone's like, Chris Jones, are you really going to hold out and take $1 million in penalties every single week that you are not out there? And Chris Jones said until week 8. So he is very dug in on holding out, looking for a new contract, because the cash amount he's going to make this year is $20 million. He doesn't want Aaron Donald money, but he wants more money. And I don't blame him necessarily. Like, we're talking about $20 million. It's hard for me to go, oh, boo-hoo, poor Chris Jones. I would love $20 million right now. But over the last 4 seasons, he has been the best, or one of the best defensive tackles. Like, Aaron Donald's one, but last year Chris Jones was quietly the best defensive tackle in football. Now, Aaron Donald did miss some time with an injury, so that opened the door for Chris Jones. But the guy put up 15.5 sacks rushing from the inside. He is the best at the moment after Aaron Donald. I can't say that enough. But the point is, yes, we can fantasize about what if the Browns are clearing all this cap space to make a big contract offer for Chris Jones and then do a sign and trade with Kansas City and make the greatest defensive line, I would say, in NFL history. Myles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson, Chris Jones, and Za'Darius Smith. That is, no joke, a Pro Bowl defensive line all on one team. And I mean Pro Bowl like back when the Pro Bowl actually mattered. Myles Garrett and Chris Jones, all pro players. Za'Darius Smith, Pro Bowl player. Dalvin Tomlinson, Pro Bowl caliber player. And that's got Shelby Harris coming off the bench along with Okoronkwo and some other dudes and guys. So this would be an incredible wet dream, but that's all it is. It's just a dream. Real talk, it's highly unlikely in my eyes that the Browns make any sort of big trade leading up to the season. But I do think this does give them some flexibility for a mid-season trade. So if the trade deadline is rolling around and the Browns have an injury at a certain position, or they feel like they are one piece away, they have $37 million to go out and spend on someone to acquire a new contract if they do want to make a trade. So this gives Andrew Berry some wiggle room to be aggressive in season if he's like, you know what? We're going to do the damn thing. We're going to go all in, even though we're already all in, and make another trade. But do you trust Andrew Berry? It's very difficult to actually nail down what the NFL salary cap is in English, but I do believe that Andrew Berry is making good strategic moves as long as they don't want to move on from Joel Bitonio, Myles Garrett, or David Njoku, as long as they are under contract, right? No Austin Hooper cut or John Johnson, which I say that with full confidence for Bitonio and Garrett, but I'm not as confident with Njoku. So that's the only ones like, all right, I guess Berry sees a lot more in 85 than I do, because a part of me thinks that is someone you could move on from with 1 year left on their contract. Whereas Garrett and Bitonio, there's no chance in hell that's going to happen. Next up on the show, I want to talk about Jakeem Grant, though. Is he a roster lock? We have spent endless hours debating who's making this roster and who's not going to make it. And Jakeem Grant is kind of in the middle, except not in Stefanski's eyes. I want to share this little snippet from a Mary Kay article in which they asked Stefanski about Jakeem Grant. Stefanski was asked if he needed to see Grant play on offense before making a decision on him, and he responded with an abrupt no. So that kind of shows you everything that Kevin Stefanski has to say about where Jakeem Grant stands in this offense, and that is pretty high in Stefanski's eyes. Right now, the wide receiver room has Cooper, DPJ, Elijah Moore, and Cedric Tillman all as roster locks. Marquise Goodwin is a roster lock, but he's also in limbo right now on the NFI list. Here is my Browns roster projection. I've got Cooper, Moore, DPJ, Cedric Tillman, Jakeem Grant, yes, David Bell, and Austin Watkins all making the 53-man initial roster. I think Marquise Goodwin will stay on the NFI list, and if he is on the NFI list after roster cutdown day, he is out minimum the first 4 weeks of the season. So maybe the Browns toss him a month or so and say, hey, hopefully you're ready to go after a month. And if you are, by then someone's probably going to be on IR, so we're going to have a roster spot for you anyway. Now, before we get to the rest of the Jakeem Grant discussion, give me 10 or so seconds to tell you guys why you should get this awesome Browns hoodie. That is 50% off, by the way. Chatsports.com/CLE hoodie. Do future you a favor right now and either get a loved one a Christmas present that you know you're going to have to get in a few months anyway. But if you get it now, you're going to save yourself like $40. So do future you a solid right now and get this awesome Browns hoodie on sale when you use our link. It's in the comments and the description of today's video. I want to share some more quotes from Kevin Stefanski on Jakeem Grant. Jakeem will get to return kicks and punts in this game, so we'll get some live reps of him doing that. But we value the return game. I don't know that anybody understands how the new rule is going to affect the number of returns. I think it's way, way too early to say. I think we all kind of have our guesses on how that might go, but we definitely value the return game. The argument for Jakeem Grant not making this roster is he's a one-trick pony. He's 30 years old coming off an Achilles injury, and all he's going to do is be a special teams guy, especially with the new rule where it devalues kick returns. What's the point of saving this guy a roster spot? Anyone can go out there and fair catch. Well, Kevin Stefanski said that's not how they approach it. They value the return game, and Jakeem Grant was signed to be a return man. Look at his punt return numbers from the last time he played in 2021 with the Bears and the Dolphins. He averaged nearly 12 yards a punt return. Could you imagine every time your offense steps on the field, your special teams just handed them a first down? Here's 12 extra yards from where you were going to start. A free first down on the special teams. I also think that the new rule is kind of facing a silent protest at the moment. So if you guys recall, there was a new rule implemented where on kick returns, guys can fair catch outside of the end zone and it goes out to the 25. So they could catch it at the 3, but fair catch, and the ball goes right out to the 25. What the NFL wants to do is they want to reduce injuries, and a lot of injuries happen on plays where guys are running at high-speed collisions, which happens on kick and punt returns. So this is the NFL's way of trying to curb injuries down, but as a result, there's no real special teams value anymore. I have not seen any player take advantage of this new rule, because what kick returner would voluntarily take it out to the 25 and then the coaches go, so if anyone can go out there and just put their hand up and catch the football, why save an extra roster spot for this position that is slowly becoming obsolete? So I think you're not going to see any special teams coordinators push for their return guys to do this, because all of a sudden the special teams coordinator, their job becomes a little less important, because anyone can go out there and just tell the guy, go put your hand up. So you're going to see no player want to do this and no coach want to enforce this. Now, before we get on out of here, give me your roster bubble lock. I'm talking about the diehard fans right now, the Dion Owens of the channel, who is someone that is not a lock to make the roster, but definitely not going to not make the roster, right there in the middle, that you think is a guaranteed lock to make it. For me, I would go with David Bell. I know there has been a lot of chatter of if he was not a third-round pick, this would be no discussion. But the fact is, he was a third-round pick. And unless you are a third-round pick that gets arrested after one season, CC number 97, you are going to make the roster your second season. That much I am sure of. Let's pick a card, and hopefully when I come back to you guys tomorrow, I'm feeling better. We've got Big Tex behind the camera today. McCullough, which card do you want to go with?
Let me go with the Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades? Okay. I like that. I like that. I'm going to go with the Seven of Hearts. Six of Diamonds. Six of Diamonds. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and we will catch up later.